You don't need to get better at closing your sales. You actually just need to learn how to craft these three stories that will do the selling for you before you even have a sales conversation. And I'm going to be showing for you exactly how we make sales feel like a human connection, relatable, fun, easygoing way to actually increase your sales without ever having to follow a tactic. Here's what I can tell you. Sales is about truth telling and human connection. And stories are the bridge between telling the truth of what you do, what you offer, and how it can help them, and helping them overcome the belief systems of why they feel stuck, which is the only reason someone doesn't buy, by the way, is just their own belief systems, and stories overcome them the fastest. And that is why when you actually include not just any story, these three very specific stories in your sales process, you will literally close more people with integrity by never having to actually address the thing head on, because your story does it for you. So let me explain what this looks like. I will tell you, I am someone in business. I love sales. Why do I love sales? I see it as a game to connect with someone and help someone see what's possible for them. I always say to my clients all the time, we're just telling the truth. We're not convincing them. We're not manipulating. We're not trying to do anything. We are just telling the truth of this is what's possible for you. This is where you're stuck, and this is how I can help. That is all sales is. And that is why when you tell stories, it actually does the bulk of the work in your content, it does the bulk of your work in your workshops, and it does the bulk of the work on your sales call. This is my favorite part about these three stories. They're literally applicable in any part of your sales process. You can whip them out anytime you want. I always say, stick them in your back pocket and pull them out whenever you need them. And I'm going to show you what this actually looks like in practice and the three stories exactly. So as I was in my sales conversations and sales calls, I learned sales calls and masterclasses and content like everybody else did, with tactics, with scripts. And let me tell you, I ditched them all. If you know me well, you will know by now, I do not ever follow something if it is not honoring the human in front of me and the human connection. People want to know why I have a very simple business, high retention, high revenue. This is why. Because I always prioritize my people, which is the connection. And when you tell stories, it creates connection. See, what you don't realize is when someone lands on your page or they come to your workshop or they're on a sales call, they already have a guard up. They already know you're going to sell something. They already know you're going to try and do something. They already know that something is going to be pushed at them. So they are walking in guarded. They're walking in, let me protect myself so I don't hear all these bombarding of thoughts and ideas and all of it. And most of all, they're in a defense without you even doing anything. And that is why your job in sales is not to overcome anything. Your job is to help them lower the defense so they can even hear you. Do you ever realize that most people can't even hear what you're saying because they're hearing through the lens of their perception of what you're saying? So if I'm in a defense positioning, I've already been sold to 1,000 times about this thing. I've already seen 1,000 ads, people telling me what I need to do, right? I'm already coming in guarded. So when you tell me you actually can help me, I don't know if I believe you because I have my history of so many other people who I have not felt that way. And that is why we do things differently, by the way, in my world. And it is all about being real, using human connection as the tool to actually connect and sell people, to just tell them the truth of how we can help them. That's it. So let's talk about what this looks like. Number one is your story immediately will lower their guard because they will see the humanistic part of it, because you're using a specific moment in person, whether yourself or a client, that is it, for them to actually overcome their belief system. And when I can see it, it instantly guards me. It lowers my guard. Think of it sometimes when you've watched a really beautiful movie and it's that moment, that breakthrough moment in that movie, and you start crying. Why do you cry? Because it touches something in you about that moment. It reminded you, right? I remember I saw this one moment in this one movie of this dad, like doing this dad-daughter dance. And I lost my dad a few years ago, and he married me and everything. And I saw that movie and it instantly made me start crying, not from sadness, but just like, oh my God, like this is so touching. This hits home. Why? Because that personal moment hit something in me. And that's what a story does, is it instantly lowers the guard, is it helps someone actually see themselves or hit something in them that they want to break through and open, which is why people actually will end up buying, is because of that. And again, the story isn't just to make someone feel uplifted, it's to help break through where they're stuck so that they can actually make a decision about whether they want to make this change or they don't, which is really what sales comes down to, is helping someone make an informed decision of whether they're a yes or a no for themselves. We're not convincing them of anything. So I want to break down for you the 3 stories we want to have always. And really, when I tell you this, I can't even believe I'm just like giving it all for you, because I've actually put this together, an entire course of breaking down how you can do this, because this really is it. This is it. And the cool thing about these 3 stories is, again, you can use them in content to pre-qualify people before you ever sell. You can use it in workshops and masterclasses, again, to sell without selling. And then on a sales call, this is how you sell without selling, overcome objections, is using these 3 stories. And I'm going to break it down for you. So the first story is your brand story. This is the most important story that literally exists inside of your business right now. When someone asks you what you do, if you go, I help people, no, you come back with a story. So a brand story, what it is it's basically saying what your mission is, why you do what you do, what was the moment that things shifted for you, and what you have been able to do as a result of it. So what does this look like? By the way, inside of my new course, I literally break down how you can actually create this for yourself and your brand story, exactly, so you craft it really well. Because a brand story needs to be done well. And the thing about a brand story, oftentimes there's multiple life moments that you've gone through that define your brand story. And now when we tell it and we're on a sales call or wherever we are, we don't want to tell the whole story every time. We want to tell one aspect of that story. And so knowing which moment to pull out is very important. So what a brand story is doing is it's helping your ideal client to actually, one, know, do I align with their values or do I not? Your brand story is going to be an embodiment of your values. If I'm actually a good client, I want to be aligned with your values. If I don't align with your values, I shouldn't work with you. Truthfully, it's just like a marriage, right? If there's not aligned values, it's probably not going to work out long term. I can tell you, as someone who's been a coach for 11 years and I coach a lot of couples in the past, it does not work out if there's not alignment of values. It's the same thing in a client relationship. You want to repel people who don't align with your values. Why? Because they probably won't implement the work that you do. And the best clients actually align with your values, do the work, show up for it, are incredible clients, and then they give you testimonial and referrals and stay in your world forever. It's a win-win-win. So your brand story is an embodiment of your values. It's also saying why you do what you do. I don't care if you sell freaking shampoo. You do it for a reason, right? There is something deep down of why you do what you do. There is something that you stand for. There is something that evokes something in you. And that is the thing. That is the moment that is actually going to sell people into your world, right? I often, as if you haven't heard already, I will use a lot the moment I lost my dad. And I have a whole story, and I could take you to the moment of this moment and this moment, and I'll probably end up crying, and you'll probably end up crying. And it's because it is the moment that my mission, my purpose got not just known, but evoked. And a lot of times that's what makes people connect with you. And every masterclass I've ever done, I tell my brand story. In my content regularly, I tell my brand story, and on calls. Because here, listen, at the end of the day, what does my brand story stand for? Time is our greatest asset. Wealth is not just what you make. It's what you do with your wealth. It's how you live. It's how you set up a business for your life. And that was what that moment hit for me about losing my dad in a heartbeat was, you don't have control over life. You have control over how you build things so that you can live with no regret. And that is why I'm so big about women not just making money in the business, but designing it for their life, making it work for their life. That is what is most important more than anything to me. And so I have a whole story and aspects of my stories so that, for instance, who do I attract? A lot of women who want to make a lot of money, but they really want to honor their life. They want it to grow with their life. Anybody can hustle and work their ass off and buy a Louis Vuitton bag and all the things. That's not who I attract in my world. Now, if you want a Louis Vuitton bag, we're good. But I attract women who really want to build for their life. And that's why my brand story attracts the right clients into my world. Okay, so you want a brand story and you want to know how to tell it and what aspects to tell very specifically in content, on sales calls, on workshops. The second story you want to have is a time story. So this is not in the way you might think. Most people in content or in sales calls talk about what you desire. What are your pain points? But what they don't talk about is the cost of not saying yes. The cost of not saying yes is very high. And what you don't realize in a sales conversation, one of the biggest things that you want to do in your marketing, one of the biggest things you want to do in sales, again, we're just telling the truth, is literally paint the picture of the cost of someone not saying yes right now. A lot of people delay decisions until they're in pain. I've seen it happen firsthand after being a coach for 11 years. You wait for the pain moment. And what our marketing job and our sales job to do is don't let people wait for pain, right? Help them see that there is a trajectory of pain if they don't make a change now. And I'll give you an example of what this looks like. For instance, one of my clients, she helps people in really being able to lead their life from their intuition and their truth and what they love and what they're here to create and really build their lives in alignment with who they are. Now, most of our clients aren't having massive issues. They're not going through massive life changes and bad things, quote unquote, happening in their life. So one of the things we worked on is you got to show people the trajectory if they don't live in alignment. If someone doesn't live in alignment, so let's use someone, right? Let's say it's a mom and she's not living in alignment with how she's building her business or how she's building her career or how she's living her life. Well, what is that going to cost her? Dissatisfaction. She's going to start to lose herself and not have confidence in herself. Then that's going to ripple out into how she shows up in her marriage. She's probably going to show up less present with her kids, distracted, pulled in a lot of directions because she's not clear in the alignment she wants to build in her business. And she's pulled in a ton of directions. She's going to give a half-ass kind of energy to a lot of things, looping, probably comparing, pulling up social media a lot, comparing where she should be, feeling like maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. I don't really know what to do, feeling confused. And then that probably is going to ripple out into her health, how she takes care of herself, how well she's sleeping, her hormones being regulated. And now let's look at that trajectory in 5 to 10 years, 15, 20 years of her life. That could easily end up in a huge health issue, in a potential divorce or a problem with their child or something happening because she was not around. It could happen of a really dissatisfying business that you hate and a self that you're not even proud to be. So the time story, and I'm not saying we're predicting people's future, but there is a truth to putting it in your ideal client's face. Hey, if you don't say yes, there is a trajectory, right? I always say this with clients in business, by not getting personalized business support, you literally are setting yourself up for a future of all the things I just said, feeling distracted, feeling pulled, wasting money, right? You don't have time to waste, guys. And that is what your time story is doing, is it's revealing what it's costing them for not saying yes. And your job is to tell that in stories, your own story or a client story, which is very specific of how we want to do this. But that's something that's really, really helpful, is to explain that. Then our third story we want to have in content, masterclass, and sales conversations is your money story. So you really want to have a time when you or a client made an investment in something financially and something positive happened on the other side. Okay. Not something, but not positive. That when you made an investment, something happened. And for this one, I'm actually going to give you guys an example of one that I use in my own industry. So I often use the moment of I was making $175K in my coaching business. And I remember I saw this woman on Instagram and I didn't know what an online business was at all. I didn't know what literally business really was. When you have a business and you're like, wait, now I actually have to learn this whole lay of the land. Okay, that's where I was. And I remember I was sitting in a parking lot in Santa Monica and I saw this woman and I was DMing her, and her coaching was $25,000 for one-on-one business coaching for 3 months for phone calls, no Zoom calls, phone calls. I'm making $175K. Just get that math. I remember I was sitting on the phone with my dad, who was an entrepreneur, amazing man. And he said, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Christy, you're going to learn. Worst case scenario, you are going to learn. And he said, in true entrepreneur form, it's $15,000 after tax anyways, because it's a write-off. Bless his heart, taught me a lot of things about entrepreneurship. And I always say, I said yes to that. And that was the moment my entire business trajectory changed. I was working over 40 hours a week with client facing, probably 60, 70-hour weeks, like so much. And by saying yes to that investment, since then I've invested 35,000, 40,000, like you name it, investments in my business. And I will always invest in my business because I always, like, what is possible is insane in business. Like how it can change your life, you can't put a price tag on that. And so, for instance, just to show you, that's my money story. So when someone is hesitant to buy, or in a masterclass or preemptively in content, you're telling the story to help prime their mind, because money objections are going to come up, baby. Like they are. People have money stuff. I don't know if I can, I will, all the things. Your job is to prime their mind to help them overcome the objection before you ever have the conversation. So do you see how if I'm doing that in my content, if I'm doing that on the masterclass, if I'm doing that in sales conversation, someone is going, oh my God, that's what was possible for her. And again, this is where having client stories and your own stories are so important, and how to tell them and all of that is very important. That's what you want to do. You want to have these three stories: brand story, time story, and a money story. And this is exactly what I'm teaching inside of my new course. Go get it. It will teach you exactly how to implement this at every part of your sales process. And most of everything with all of this is for you to actually see that stories help someone see themselves. They help overcome their belief system. It helps someone, it actually says a lot without having to say a lot. Let's take that money story, for instance. I don't have to say, yeah, invest in yourself. I don't have to say, hey, why don't you believe in what's actually possible for you when you say yes? What is the reason why? Why are you stuck? What are you hesitant about? I don't need to have that conversation with you. Why? My story is doing it for you. You want this huge life change, you can have it. It's a choice. That's what it's saying, right? And it's helping anywhere someone feels like they can't, it shows them they can. Because here's the thing I can tell you about sales in very simple forms. If someone knew 100% guarantee that they were going to get the result, they would say yes. Guaranteed. They would. And the only reason they don't is because they don't totally believe it, which is why your job is to overcome beliefs, and why stories are the best way to overcome beliefs. And again, it's how to tell the story, what stories to tell, when we tell them, in the whole process. And that is the value of using this as a sales mechanism, because all we're doing is connecting with people. We're literally using real life examples to connect with people. And even if you feel like you don't have a good story for one of those, there's many different ways to craft this. And again, this is what I'm teaching inside the program, so that you can actually have the ability to, how do you actually tell these stories? How do you actually sell without ever feeling like you're selling? Because again, it's truth telling and a connection game, and that is what this is all about. So go ahead and look at your own business right now. Look at, where do I have these stories? What are they? And if you want to learn how to actually implement them, go ahead and DM me, and I will tell you exactly what to do and how to do it.